Welcome back to another episode of the Resting Stitch Face podcast. So, apparently, I'm that doctor on TikTok now. You know, the one your colleagues roll their eyes at and your patients recognize from that viral video on Dry Socket. I didn't plan it that way. Honestly, I just wanted to educate a few people, maybe make them laugh, maybe make medicine feel a little more human. But somewhere between helpful post and oops, did I just get doxxed? I realize social media for doctors is a whole different beast.
Yeah, that's definitely not something that we covered in residency at any point.
Exactly. So today we're talking about the good, the bad, and the algorithmic ugly of being a doctor online, what social media can do for your career, your patients, and your sanity, and what it can take from you if you're not careful. We'll talk about my journey, how the internet can open doors and get you in trouble, and what that CNN producer told me about what real credibility comes from now. And maybe even we can convince Sarah to post her first
Uh,
reel. Well, you've done a couple, but your first real all-in reel by the end of this episode.
yeah, I can't make any promises unless it's about my chickens or farm. We can always try.
I mean, farm content, chicken content, I have seen do very well. So anyway, welcome to the Resting Stitch Face, where surgery is hard, but life online could be harder.
Welcome back.
So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk about social media for doctors, starting with how I got started on social medias. I remember this is back in COVID days when TikTok was a brand new little social media baby, and we're all sitting at home not working. Were you out of work, or did they have you working emergency front lines?
Yeah, I was still emergency. So I went in every once in a while because my colleague was farther away. And so I was just like, if you ever need
Sure.
anything, I'm 10 minutes away so I can come in. So it's easy.
So my partner was covering all the emergencies, but I was staying home because it doesn't make sense for us both to be there not seeing enough patients to make it worthwhile. So I ended up staying home. And I remember being on TikTok and just feeling like there's like really not any oral surgery or dental content on here. I started seeing some doctors posting things and I thought, oh, maybe we should post something. So I remember one of my first videos was something like, we're ready to serve you when we all come back. And I had all my staff members take videos. One of them was like brushing her dog's teeth, and the other one was out in the
That's awesome.
field in her nurse's coat looking we're just kind of like, we miss you. And
Yeah.
hopefully we'll be back soon. So I feel like that was my debut, and I made a few videos, and then I kind of lost some steam initially. But I'm a spiritual person, and I feel like God told me to get on TikTok, which seems dumb. God, why would you tell me to do that? My husband thinks social media is of the devil. This other day, he was like,
I was
"No
wondering what
good.
Abe thought about it. It's so funny
No
that you
good
said
can
that.
come from social media." And I'm like, "Well, I think some good can come." He's like, "No, no good comes from it." And I was like, "I'm trying to do good being on there." Well, not people doing it for their business, but people just being on social media to be on social media is terrible, you know? And so I think there is a lot of harm that comes with it. Like, I'm totally addicted to my phone right now, and this weekend I've been, like, trying to repent and look at it for, like, an hour, but, so I thought that was a really
Sorry that I forced
strong.
you to do podcasting on the weekend.
No, that's a whole different thing. But yeah, I felt kinda called to come, and then you'd think, "Oh, well, if God's inspiring me, he's calling me to be on here, then of course I would explode."
Yes.
Right? It's not
Yes.
like grinding it out, like, "Why am I making all these videos for, like,
Yeah. Now you're just
100
Daniel in the
people?"
den with the lions.
Right? Like, "Oh, wait a second." Anyway, there's so many ups and downs, that come with it, and I I was calculating today, I think I have about 22,000 followers across all of my platforms, so I'm like, "Ow, that's actually kind of a lot."
It's way more than my 228.
Part of the reason I was inspired this podcast episode was because I went to that social media retreat, and I remember going thinking like, "This is embarrassing. I only have like 20,000 followers, and gosh," and then all the people there were like, "Oh my gosh, you have so many. You're amazing." You can always find someone to compare yourself to. So I guess that's
Sure.
probably my biggest tip if you're wading into the waters of social media for the first time, or maybe you're wondering if you should continue on. There's always someone who's going to have a million followers, and there's always going to be someone who has 10. And
Sure.
so, you can compare yourself. And sometimes it's frustrating. Like sometimes I'm like, man, that person has 100,000 followers and they hardly post, and they don't seem to get people commenting or engaging like me, or maybe they don't even seem that interesting, and so it's easy to be, oh man, deflated. But I also will say sometimes it's not real. As
Right.
I get bigger in all
Yeah.
of this, I get people messaging me every single day asking me to buy bots, to buy
Yep.
followers, and for, $10,000, I could get 100,000 bots. And so you realize even then some of this is maybe not even real.
Can you imagine? That's a whole other level of imposter syndrome where you're like, "Oh, no, you've asked me to speak on a real stage in front of real people, and I actually just bought all of those followers with bots. Oh, they're not even real people."
Well, and I've had a few episodes where I've had some people really heavily trying to lure me into their marketing web, and they'll be like, "Look what I just did," and all of a sudden, like, 600 followers, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I had a video go." No, I didn't. They just bought a bunch of bots, and those do get deleted. Like, I've never had anything like that stick with me, so
Yeah.
it's all fake.
Yep.
So
Yep.
so
Well,
what
and
are
it's
your
funny.
thoughts? Go ahead.
I don't know, I think when I've crept on and like, that's my problem is I'm not consistent, right? When I first got my little retro camper, Lulu the Glamper is her name, and she's very cute. If you haven't seen her, she's got her own Instagram handle, which I don't really post on that much anymore because we don't go camping anymore. But she is the cutest. So when I first got Lulu, I posted a lot of like Lulu and camping stuff. And I couldn't believe the amount of engagement that I got from people. It was crazy. And this was back in 2016, I think. Yeah, 2016, early 2017.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just so funny because that was before it was a thing, I guess. Um, but then like that kind of fell off and then I had kids and so it was like nothing ever really sticks. But it is funny because I look back at some of the stuff, the content that I was creating with all of that early on. And it's just funny how it didn't seem like a viable thing, and especially, like, I'd never thought to do it with oral surgery content because it was this weird conundrum of academic and social media space, whereas now
Yeah.
that seems to be ridiculous. Of course, that's where we're gonna take to it because we can educate through that, but at the time, it was like, "Ew, don't show me the blood and guts, that's gross," you know? But that was kind of my whole thing. I think what I have found that is interesting, and I wanna know, like, what they talk about at these conferences, but I think what I've found that's interesting that you do is that you, like, just go on your walks and you just talk, and, like, that is really hard for me to do, you know what I mean? Just because it's like I don't go, like I don't walk home for lunch, and, like, so it would just be, like, every once in a while here on the Grove. Like the other day, I took a bunch of pictures and videos, and that's how I did it. But how do
Totally
you
like it.
how did you
Yeah.
how did you kind of grow into that? And do you find that you enjoy that more than you enjoy doing like the funny reels that are very funny?
My reels are funny? Is that what you
Yeah, I really liked the one
Thanks.
where was it one of your kiddos that was jumping into your arms? That was my favorite.
Oh, I love that one. That's one thing I have to say. The ones that everyone who's worried about posting, the ones that you make perfect or pour your heart into or edit more than you normally would are the ones that don't do well. I made that one, like, I asked my daughter to help me, and we chose that Ordinary song that's really popular right now, and we went into the field in front of our house, and I got my other daughter to come and be our director and till the point that she's like, "I'm fed up with this." And so I did it, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cute," and I was sending it to people like, "Look," and I'm laughing at myself, and it was kind of a bomb, but I
Well, it's funny
liked
because it
it.
never you sent it to me, but it never popped up on my
Oh,
feed.
on your feed?
Yeah,
Oh,
it was really
funny.
weird. So anyway, I don't know,
I never
maybe
there, but
that's
maybe
a
you'd seen it.
we can get into that, right?
Anyway, yes. So, yes,
The
so
algorithm.
that's one point
Yeah.
is just like, man, just post because you don't know what is going to take off. And now I can't remember what your original question was.
Oh, which do you like better?
Walking.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
which like, how did you develop into both of these things? Which do you like better? Which one
Yeah. That's an
does
interesting question.
better?
I think that goes back to, like, my origin story. My origin story, my first love for social media was TikTok, so the platforms are very different, and I don't think the strategies are necessarily the same for the different platforms, so TikTok in its early stages was so organic and it was so authentic, and it was just people posting basically like unedited or minimally edited content, just being very
I feel like there
real.
was a lot of dancing at the
And it
very
was a lot of
beginning.
dancing, for
Okay.
sure. Where Instagram was, like, heavily curated, that was kind of when they were switching from the beautiful, beautiful photos, which I'm not a photographer, so that was never me. The
Yeah, to
beautiful
the stories.
photos and the curated content and building that community, based on, like, having everything just so was more, like, Pinteresty to me. And so I think people were really leaning into that authentic side of TikTok, and so that's where I think I pulled that just, like, walking and talking off the cuff content. That's,
Mhm.
um, maybe why that's just what I've always done. And when I went to this social media conference, they had a little breakout session, and they actually had provided scripts for us that they had wrote that we were supposed to go and record and get some feedback from, like, a social media guru. And they had scripts and a teleprompter. This is the first time I'd ever scripted anything out or used a teleprompter, and I was like, "I've been doing this for, like, at least 5, 6 years, and I've never thought to do that. That never came across my
Yeah.
radar,
Yeah.
um,
'Cause you're
and
like,
I
"I'm
thought,
not a news
"Oh."
anchor." And they're like, "Oh, wait,
Right,
okay,
I'm
well,
like,
this is a
this
thing."
was probably what most people are doing. They're probably appearing a lot more, and in some ways, that probably fits well in the medical space because, you want to be polished, you want to
Mhm.
seem professional. My brand is just authenticity, so for me, it tends to work, and I'll say the video that they'd suggested that I made didn't do very well. Didn't do nearly as well as the ones I normally do, so I think
Yeah, 'cause it's off brand, right? I mean, it
leaning
just
into
doesn't.
your authentic
Right.
side. So I have
Yeah.
tried that a little bit, but I try to make sure when I'm doing the script that it still has a little bit of that casual conversational feel. But again, those videos aren't really doing any better for me than the traditional ones. And then the fun dancey ones, I definitely started doing those mostly, and I was coming up with all these ideas. I think we had some funny ideas. I did like a big series about like if you talked to your dentist like you would talk to anyone else. So, like, one of them was if you talk to your dentist like your bartender and they're pouring a shot and like, "Oh, I don't like shots in my mouth." Just funny things that people say. Or the plumber got their hand down in the toilet and like, "Ooh, I don't know how you put your hands in there all day." It's just taking all these things that people say to us, and putting them in the context of real life situations just to kinda show how funny it is, which I thought thank you for laughing. I thought they were funny. Mm.
Hey, do you do oral?
Right, yeah, stuff like that. So, I was definitely doing
Am I a dentist? Yes, thanks for asking.
we were definitely, leaning into more of that and some dancing and stuff like that, and at that point, it did pretty well, and then the trouble is the algorithm, once you figure it out, it always switches, so
Yeah.
I hit, 10,000
But isn't
followers.
that life? I
Right.
mean, yeah.
I hit TikTok, 10,000 followers pretty fast, and then I was like, "I'm grooving, I'm, like, gaining 1,000 followers a month, I'm gonna hit 20,000 this year," and then I was like a screeching halt, and so, you have to kind of reevaluate. For a while, they were really letting you do surgical content, and, they had all these crazy things, and I remember one of my friends, Mona, she has, like, 350,000 followers on TikTok, and most of her videos are just like, "Look at this jaw fracture when we move the segments
It's
apart," and
awesome.
everyone's like, "Ew," it had millions of followers, and then suddenly those are banned, and
Yeah.
I had surgical content, and then it can get reported, and a year later, suddenly all these videos were getting reported and taken down, and if you get
Oh,
more violations in
yeah.
a small period of time, you can get banned or certain things get taken away from you, and you could get taken off completely, and so that was tricky too because 'cause I'm like, "I made these a year ago. How can
Yeah.
I control?" So
Right.
it's definitely kind of a roller coaster, and I think some of that's
Yeah.
evened out, and they allow more of that stuff. Maybe they just kinda flag it, but it's just unpredictable, and sometimes it's a hard roller coaster to ride, but if you're doing it out of your authentic self, I
Mhm.
think that's what matters the most. It doesn't matter if you have 100,000 followers or 100. If you're being you and your people are following you and finding you, then I still think that's valuable because even the one person, just influencing one person,
Mhm.
getting good information for one person, that makes a difference.
Well, and I think one thing that's really interesting too is I don't think that necessarily just like the quote unquote likes or followers or those things aren't the whole story, right? Because, when I had no idea that when you make a professional business
Business
Instagram
account.
account,
Yeah.
that it breaks out all of these things.
Analytics and stuff.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and that I might have 228 followers. Also 29 is my favorite number. So if I get one more follower, whoever it is, I'll get you something special because I love the number 29. And I've been sitting at 228 for 2 weeks and I'm like,
Or
who's it
329 or
who's it gonna
429
be?
or
Yes.
2,900.
And so
Any of those options would be fine.
and I'm like, who's it gonna be? And so but I look at it and it's also like, oh, your content has had 1,400 views in the last week. So there's a lot of people watching this stuff. It's just like they're not gonna follow or like it or whatever it is, and that's fine because I don't always follow or like the things either, but it doesn't mean that I didn't plant a little seed in me, and as long as
Mhm,
having that reach with your authentic voice, I think is really
mhm.
important. I think that's cool.
Well, I think also this is like remarketing, right? And this
Mhm,
completely free influence, and so it's
mhm.
easy to feel like, "Oh, man, I only got 200." Well, when's the last time you were speaking to a room with 200 people?
Right.
You
God,
know,
how
like
ever. Oh,
something, right?
that
When's the
is,
last
like, so
time
stressful to me.
1,400 people tuned into
Yeah,
something that you had to say?
right.
When is the last time that you when
Yeah.
have you ever had access to 1,000,000 people?
No, it's so
And that's
true.
the power of social media, and so
Mhm.
I think it's really important that doctors are here on this space. Like, I don't think everyone has to be on here making content, but I think there's definitely been a shift.
Look,
Oh
somebody
my gosh,
did it! Somebody
229.
did it!
You
Somebody did it!
manifested it.
How did it go? Who was it?
Send them
How
a
do I
gift.
find
They
out?
don't even know. They haven't even heard this yet.
I know. Do you know who it was?
Who was it?
My gosh, Erin. It's my favorite attending, general surgery attending from Baylor. It's Dr. Petrie.
Yes.
Dr.
That's
Petrie,
so
if you're
awesome.
listening to this, I love you. You're my favorite. You're the best.
I love
I'm
that.
gonna send you a gift.
That's
You deserve
amazing.
more than just a small gift for being the 229, but yeah, I'll send you a
That
small
was
gift.
worth disrupting my monologue. I don't even remember where I was
Sorry.
going. No, it's fine. Oh, I think I was saying I think there's such an opportunity for, medical people to be on here sharing positive information. There's so much misinformation out there right now coming from all sources. We can't
Yeah.
even trust the government right now. We've got
Yeah.
non-healthcare people leading
I
healthcare,
mean, to be fair,
changing
like, I think
healthcare
that that's
policy.
always been the case, but, it's just now more obvious.
And so, I think we need to be flooding the
Mhm.
interwebs with reliable, authentic,
Mhm.
expert opinions and
Yeah.
information so that people
And,
have
like, what
access
we call
to
in the
that.
Navy, like, from the deck plates, right? Like, it's really nice to have these people up on their high pedestals talking about the things that they're hearing about from their underlings, but the people on the deck plates, the ones that are really dealing with all of the stuff, that's where the meat and potatoes is, and I know I say meat and potatoes, it's my Irish husband, but I think that that's really where the meat is. This is what's actually happening on the ground right now. You might think that in your bean counter world up there that this is what's important, but really all that's happening down here is affecting all that what is can happen up there.
Yeah,
So I think you're right. And the only way to get that information out is by putting it out. You
yeah,
know? The only way, like Kelsey says, the only way to change things is to change
change
things.
it. I love that. And I think for me, a big reason I was inspired to go on is just because there is so much dental information that we don't have the time or the availability to give to all of our patients, like Cariology. How are cavities formed? What are the pitfalls? Where can like maybe like brush more or try not to drink so much soda. But like when you can understand that full process, maybe you can find those weak points that you can work on. Like, oh, I'm eating too often, or I need to use a fluoridated toothpaste. There's different pitfalls and things that we can change, and patients just aren't getting that. And I think also like in my practice, like I don't even bother hardly telling people to brush their teeth because by the time they come to me, it's just like, oh well, they are already so far gone.
Erin, no
I
ma'am.
know, I'm not you. I mean, I'll tell like, "Oh, you missed this spot you're really missing, you really need to work on that," but
Uh,
it's fallen on deaf ears so many times that people
oh,
just
it's
don't
so
seem to be
interesting because you know what I
interested.
say to people about this, especially if they're coming and they're like are interested in implants. I'm like, "Girl, you know that you are my billboard, right?" And so if you're not brushing your teeth and you have cavities in these other teeth, and then I go and I put an implant in here and it gets, pockets or it fails, well, then you're gonna be like, "Oh, I went and got an implant from Dr. Harding and it failed." And I'm like, "Well, but I need you to start brushing your teeth because I'm not gonna put this billboard up in this janky place where nobody's gonna go. That seems ridiculous. Or I'm not gonna have bad advertising." And so I'm like, "We gotta get your teeth all cleaned up. We gotta get all this gingivitis cleaned up. We gotta get the plaque out. We gotta get the cavities fixed first, and then we can talk about it."
Well, I think we have, like, different markets of people in California versus the Midwest, like,
Oh, I was doing this
when you said
everywhere.
you,
I did
like,
this in
never see
Virginia too.
denture
I did this in
when
the
you
Navy.
when you said you, like, never see denture patients, I was like, "What?"
Oh, I mean, I do see denture patients. It's just not like I'm just
I
not
mean,
used
I'm
to
talking about, like, the end of the line, like,
Yeah.
terminal dentition type people. You're just kinda like, "Okay, that's."
Yes.
I'm not used to having people have any interest in my office and what I have to say as far as that behavioral modification, but maybe the
Yeah,
people who
but
are tuning in
99% of the people on
online.
social media don't have any interest in what you have to say, but you're still saying it, right?
But I figure that the people that are, like, wanting to listen are listening. I don't know. You're right, maybe.
It's
Anyway,
always worth saying. It could be you. It could be you to change it. That's all.
maybe.
That's
Yeah,
all.
now I feel guilty and
All right.
shamed.
I need to know. What is getting doxxed? What does it mean? I've never heard that term before. I was like, is it doxycycline? Is it like the doxy, like the dachshund, like the wiener dog?
That is a whole other thing. It's basically when someone takes your information and comes through in your real life. So, and let's see the dictionary
Oh.
online. Search for and publish private or identifying information on the internet, typically with malicious intent. That's doxing. So, yes, I have been
Can you give
doxed.
me an example?
Yeah, so I'll say I don't wanna I told this story at the social media conference, and it kind of freaked people out, so I'm not trying to freak people out, but I think it's important to know that there
Yeah.
are potentially negative consequences of posting online, and one of them is, potentially being doxxed, and so for me, I made a video where I said, "If your oral surgeon or dentist didn't give you a narcotic, after your oral
Mm.
surgery, that was probably the right thing," and I said it kind of in that way, and I was trying to just be a little maybe inflammatory a little bit just to make like, for interest and people get people to listen, but
Yeah.
people got really upset with me. It was going viral, I was getting stitched and shared. Stitch is when you, like, take apart a
Yeah.
certain video and then you comment. I was getting stitched multiple times, and
Do you get a
essentially the
notification when you get stitched?
usually yeah.
Oh,
And
interesting, okay.
so I was just getting all of these reposts, and of course, they choose the worst part and land on a terrible looking picture of you, and I'm very expressive, so if I'm not smiling on purpose, I usually look terrible in pictures. It's just going everywhere. It was just blowing up, which, everyone wants, I guess, but it was a little intense, and
Mhm.
everyone was saying things like, "This is what's wrong with health. You're what's wrong with healthcare in
Of course, yeah, it's you.
America," and I feel so bad for your patients. You're such a mean, terrible, non-compassionate doctor who doesn't help with their pain. And this is why there's an opioid epidemic in America because your patients are going to the streets and they're getting fentanyl
Mm.
laced narcotics and dying and getting addicted and stuff like that. And so it's really intense.
Mm. Mhm.
And for a little while, I let it ride out, and then after a while, I ended up taking the video down because I was like, "My purpose isn't to breed fear of dentistry
Yeah.
or distrust. I'm trying to spread education and to build trust by showing the humanity of the
Yeah.
dental side." So I ended up taking it down, which is kinda the opposite of what you wanna do if you wanna go viral, right? But what really broke the camel's back is that these people started making videos about me. They were going to my a work website and taking
Oh,
screenshots and videos. They were posting my work address and the Illinois State Board address, trying to campaign to get people to make reports to get me fired and to get me,
that's the craziest thing. Yeah.
and I wasn't too worried. I was like, "Please report me to the board.
Right.
They're gonna pat me
Yeah.
on the back for not using narcotics." I didn't even say, "Some practices don't even use opioids at all, heaven
Right.
forbid," but it's just mostly the addiction recovery people that are already kinda defensive and worried about this topic, and they couldn't understand the nuance, and
It's
once
interesting,
everyone
Aaron,
knows what
because
they know,
yeah,
they
but
don't
it's
care that
it's
I'm like, "I give narcotics every day." You can't really explain anything to some of these
yeah.
people that are just
It's funny when
arguing.
you talked about it, my first thought was like, "Oh, this is big pharma, like, hiring bots to do the things." And that was
I
my
mean, it
first
could be
thought, and
bots.
so
I don't know.
maybe
But then I also what really bothered me though is that I have one-star reviews on Google from fake patients because of that.
yeah,
So that's where it's like, you can come on here and say whatever you want, but when you start coming for me in my own life, that's
right.
terrible.
Yeah, especially when I'm trying to
So
help and educate. Come on.
yeah, so you have to be a little bit careful about things like that. I will
Yeah.
say also there's a little bit of a liability component to it. Like you cannot
Mhm.
give medical advice on TikTok. And everyone wants me to give them medical advice. I get
Yeah.
DMs all day, every day. Pretty much every video I make has someone saying, "Hey, doctor, this is happening to me, blah, blah, blah." And so I tried to put disclaimers on there. Hey, this isn't medical advice. It's general educational information. Please talk to your doctor if you have questions or concerns. I'm not your doctor type of thing.
Yeah.
But also, it's hard. I'm like the bleeding heart. I want to
I
respond and
know.
help everyone, but I finally end up ignoring most of those DMs because then next thing you know, I'm like accidentally answering things or wondering if I answered things or putting myself in hot water. So that's something you do have to be careful about. I know some people, especially as they get bigger, they actually get liability insurance that covers that kind of thing too. So that's
Oh,
something
wow.
you can do.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, because I think that I don't know, I feel like this was really big has been really big, like the cancel culture, right? And so doing
Mhm.
all those things and flooding people with bad reviews or whatever it is, it's like that cancel culture. And I think that that was like crazy. And it seems like that's kind of calmed down a little bit. It's definitely taken on a different head. Now it's two headed instead
Yeah.
of just one. Um, but I think that like that just talking about it, I think is important because at the end of the day, like you can cancel somebody online, but the person still is living, right? And the person still is like providing for their family and like it's still a person, right? And so I think
Yep.
that that's the big problem with all of this is that it takes the human side out of it. And so that's why I appreciate your authenticity with what you do is because you're not just a bot, right? You're not just AI generated Aaron. You're walking around in the neighborhood, going on a walk at lunchtime and talking about almost running into a caution tape. Right? It's human, it's real, like, this stuff happens, you know what I mean? And so how have you navigated that emotionally? Because I think that's really where it would take a toll on me, is just saying my normal stuff and having people that have no interest in what I'm talking about coming in and commenting because they can. I don't know.
I would say for the most part, almost all the comments I get are kind or supportive or just
Mhm.
asking questions, but every once in a while you do get that, and I suspect the people that have much bigger followings deal with it more, and they must have a strategy to filter those out, and you can filter some of those comments out automatically if you'd like, but sometimes you can't tell what you're going to say that's gonna make someone
Oh, yeah,
mad,
of
and I
course.
have definitely waded into things before, like I again was getting this big uproar from people on TikTok because this girl was talking about how she hasn't brushed her teeth in like 3 years, and when she tries, it really hurts and her teeth break, so she doesn't, and she's, trying to get her teeth fixed, and so I thought I was making this really kind response video like, "Oh, man, I see that all the time, and it's so hard, and it does hurt, and, I'm so glad you're working towards getting your mouth taken care of," but I'll say most of the time brushing your teeth even though you don't want to do it, it's actually the best thing to do because it's just gonna get worse if you can't, so maybe you could use, like, warm water, I thought I was being, like, supportive
Mhm.
and offering some good advice, and then all these people are coming at me like, "Did you not even watch the video? She said it was genetic," and I'm like, "I never said anything about the cause," or, people are just
Yeah.
mad and triggered, and
Yeah.
I never thought I would get in trouble with the internets for talking about
Yeah.
toothbrushing, like, that seems
For
like
goodness
such a
sakes, yeah.
basic
God forbid.
thing. Or the other
Yeah.
day on Threads, some lady was like, "Ladies, what are you doing when you get your nails done? Because I hate it." And so I said something like, "If it doesn't bring you joy, then maybe
Yeah.
don't do it. You don't
Yeah.
have to have a full set of nails even though it's really popular right now." And I had people coming for me,
About
and
nails?
yeah, and they were like, "You shouldn't tell women what they can or can't do with their bodies," or whatever I said was so egregious, they have to go and look at my profile to see what I am, and it says something about, like, empowering women in medicine, and
Of
they're
course,
like,
and then they use that
"A
against you.
woman who
You're not
empowers
empowered.
women saying that to people," and I was like, "I thought I was saying something
Yeah.
supportive, like, if you don't like doing it, just have your natural nails, it's okay,"
Yeah.
but
That's
that was terrible of me to say, so
yeah.
I don't know, you can't really necessarily prevent it, sometimes maybe lean into the controversy a little bit. If you're polarizing, you're gonna find people that really love
Mhm.
you and maybe find people that don't like you, and
Mhm.
maybe that's on brand for you. I mean, that's like the Charlie Kirks of the world, you know? That's
Yeah, but I
why
think
he
that
had
that's the
a huge
hard part, right?
influence.
Because it's human nature, I think, to and we all do this, and some just more than others, right? So it's like you can have 100 good comments, and then you have 1 bad, and the 1 bad is the one that really
Mhm.
just is this
Yeah.
spiraling, spinning bug in your brain, and I think that that's just human nature, that's
Mhm.
protective, but
Yes.
it's so harmful, and I think Joe Rogan says, like, "Don't ever look at the comments,"
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I mean,
And I think
that's
that,
one
like,
strategy.
once you, like, get far enough along because at first you're trying to curate your content and, like, this isn't, like, hitting how I want it to, and so you're trying to figure out how to do that, but at the end of the day, if you're living it authentically and you're doing it authentically, like, it doesn't matter what people have to say. If they wanna listen, they should listen. If they don't, then keep on scrolling by, but,
Yeah.
it's really hard. I think that's really, really hard.
It is hard, and I made a video once that again, you're just trying to follow the advice, like, "Try this kinda hook, try that kinda
Mhm.
hook, do this to get more interest," and I'm not necessarily trying to make a ton of money or anything, I'm, like, barely monetizing on TikTok, I may make a couple $100 a month, like, "Yay, something," but that's not my purpose, but, sometimes it'd be nice to, like, all this work I'm doing, maybe I could be
Yeah.
rewarded. So, like, trying to do things to do better, and sometimes you miss. And for
Yeah.
me, I hope people who follow me know I really don't have malicious bone in my body. I'm really not trying to hurt anyone. I'm generally trying to
Yeah.
help. And so I made this video that was hurting some people's feelings and getting off base. And it was about I made this series about least favorite dental patients. And it was just to educate and it was a joke, it was like the screamer and like you scream, then you move and we're gonna stab you. And so like try not to do that, It's just funny and I thought. And then when I was like
It's because it is funny because I'm, like, picturing all of the screamers that
the
I've ever met. I'm like,
grabber,
"Ah."
and, like, again, of course, we're not gonna like if you're grabbing us, we don't like being assaulted, like, that was the theme of it, and the next one was the gagger, and so I was pretending to gag, and I'm a bad actor. I was trying to grab attention, like, "You probably think you're our least favorite patient, but we, like, get it. We know you can't help it, and it's
Yeah.
okay, and we have tricks." That was the caption, and that was what I was trying to portray, and again, trying to just gain some attention and people, like, watch.
Mhm.
But, again, this dentist that I thought I was friends with who was a bigger influencer, I even almost met up with her in person when I was visiting Boston. I thought we were friends. She made this scathing video about me passing that on where it was like, "This is what's wrong with" again, I'm like, "What's wrong with dentists in America? And this is
Yeah.
what makes people afraid to go to the dentist," and some people were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a gagger, but I'm glad my dentist," so they, like, weren't offended, but then there were some people like, "You're the worst person in the world, I'd
Yeah.
never want you to be my dentist," and really, this was not the intent of the video, the intent was just to offer some reassurance, but clearly it was taken the wrong way, so I took it down, and I even asked the other creator, "Can you take down your stitch of me?" And she's like, "No, I need to hold people accountable when they do terrible things," and I was like, "I really wasn't trying to do anything terrible, that was a miss on my end, I'm so sorry, I'm not trying to cause harm." And you are saying you're trying not to cause harm, but you keeping this video up that in your brain is and, your narrative is so
Right.
terrible, is doing more harm. It's propping you up to make you look like you're a really nice, compassionate dentist, but it's harming the dental community if that's really what it is, and
Mhm.
she finally took it down, but she said, "This is not the first crass video. I remember that opioid one that almost got you canceled." So, I don't always
Right.
do it right.
Yeah.
But I think the people who know me know that that's not my intent, and so that's the trick when you're trying new things, and you can decide, do you wanna lean into that and have all the people spreading it and you're getting views, or are you taking it down because it's not on brand? It's
Yeah.
tricky.
And it doesn't matter how polished everything, pinned up everything is, there's still gonna be someone, you know what I mean? There's still gonna be someone, and so it is what it is.
For
I
sure.
say that, but I remember getting fired by a patient in residency. It was this older, like, much older gentleman in his maybe
Yeah.
mid-80s, and I go in and I'm describing to him what the issue is and how we're going to help manage it, and I was giving him the radiographic description of his bone, and it was moth-eaten, and he took a lot of offense to that, and when my senior came in, he said, "I never want that girl to come in." and see me. I don't ever want to see her again. She said my bone was moth-eaten. And so they were like, "Mr. So and so has fired you from his care, so please don't go and round on him. We'll take care of it." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh." And so, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how hard you're trying. There's always gonna be something.
And that's where, again, I say this all the time, you guys are bored hearing it, but it's none of my business what other people think of me. I know my heart. I know I'm not trying
Yeah.
to harm anyone or do anything, so
Yeah.
every once in a while I mess up. Sometimes I do. Thankfully, I haven't got canceled for a dumb little mistake, so I think that's important to realize we don't know always the context or who or why or what someone is saying, small moments, so some compassion and some non-judgment I think is good. So I think there are different strategies that
Yeah.
when if you're trying to be on social media as a doctor that you can implement, and I think it depends a little bit on what your purpose is.
Mhm.
One of the things I thought was really interesting in the conference I went to recently was they were talking about building your patient base, and I think that's a really common thing that doctors are using it for as marketing. Again, it's nice because it's
Mhm.
free marketing, you're not having to take
Mhm.
donuts to dentists all the time.
Mhm.
But it was a plastic surgeon. Plastic surgeons this day and age tend to rely super heavily on social media to get
Mhm.
patients, but I thought that was interesting. That's not really my reason for being on there. I have enough patients, so I'm not really trying to do that. I'm more just trying to globally educate she talked about a few strategies that I thought were interesting that might be helpful. One is that she really leans in heavy to following and interacting with local companies and businesses. So on her account,
Interesting.
she's following the donut shop and she's following the hair
Okay.
salons and the nail salons, especially things that might be more aesthetically based. The health
Yeah.
food store, people that are interested in plastic surgery might have some cross follows with them. And making sure you're geotagging everything so you can make sure your video says you're in Quincy, Illinois or San Diego, California. That will push your content out to more local people.
Oh, interesting.
And then she says, "Go and comment, make, like" I feel like she said 100 a day, that seems like a lot, but, like, 100 comments per day, like, 1 on the smoothie shop, and let people start seeing you, interacting with you, they're gonna start
Yeah.
following you, it's gonna start pushing you out to the more local people, and then she even will do collaborations with local influencers, so, like, this girl came in and was getting Botox, and then she's really a big influencer in their area, so then other people are seeing
Mhm.
that, and they're getting a lot of people coming from that sort of thing, so
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting strategy that I hadn't thought
Yeah.
about before.
Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. And then so here's a good question for you. So with these business accounts and things, is it appropriate to like everybody that follows you, you should follow them back? Or because a lot of times you see these bigger accounts and they're not following anybody, or they're following they're following 10 other accounts and then they've got a whole bunch of followers. Like
Mhm.
what's behind that? I don't know. What's good? What's bad? I don't
Mm.
know.
I don't know, I'm not expert on that, I do think
If
following
you follow
people in your
somebody
niche.
back yeah, if you follow somebody back, does that get your content pushed out more, or is it only drawing in their content to you?
That's an interesting question. I think it is valuable to follow people in your niche because
Yeah.
then the people that follow them are more likely to see them, and then building that relationship is really important. So if you're on
Okay.
social media as a creator, a big part of that is consuming the content yourself. So that's like
Okay.
seeing the trends and the things that are happening, but one of the most helpful things is collaborating with other people. So for instance, I've been reposting vintage TikToks onto Instagram lately. I just thought, "Oh, these did pretty well before. Let's see how they do on
Vintage. They're like 3
Instagram."
years old.
They're like
It's so
5,
funny.
okay. Um, that's my easiest way to frame it, right? They're baby TikTok from the baby age. But I pushed one out that has, like, 23,000 views right now, but
Mhm.
another dental account pushed in as, like, 200,000. So that's just interesting. It's the same content, and part of the
Oh,
algorithm is
yeah.
like, "Oh, you're if your
Was this
videos
the
stink." Yeah, I post
iodoform
one with
gauze?
it was
Yeah,
a
I love
F
that.
a 5 FU
Yeah.
impregnated gauze that I'd put in a cyst, and so it's like that sleeve magic trick where they're pulling and pulling this
Yeah.
handkerchief out of their sleeve. That's kinda what it was like, but it's the same people will say, "Oh, if your content stinks, it's not gonna go anywhere," but a lot of it is the algorithm and someone with the reach, so, like, it had so much more, and then another dentist reposted it and basically like, "This is a video from Dr. Sheffield, and she's hilarious, you should go follow her," and so I've
Mhm.
got, like, 300, 400 new followers in the last couple weeks just because of that, so collaborating and building a relationship or
Okay, that makes
going
sense.
on and following them and then commenting on their content, then their followers are gonna start seeing, like, "Who's this Dr. Sheffield lady who says things that are interesting? Oh, I might go back and follow her." So definitely building those
Mhm.
relationships is important. So, yeah, I think following people that align with you is helpful. Now is a follow per
Yeah.
follow. I've kinda gone back and forth on that.
Okay, yeah. Because
Yeah.
the algorithm changes on that too. It's like it
Uh-huh,
doesn't.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
I'm sure it does, for sure.
So you kinda talked about the different platforms, what, type of content was supported, I guess. I think that we've considered that same thing with the podcast, right? And how
Mhm.
best to push it out because there's all of these different podcast platforms, and you wanna have the greatest reach, but then you start to realize pushing it out to all of these things may not be the best use of your time and space and energy. And so curating it to each individual platform is time consuming. But
Mhm.
even with us, with this, because, I curl my hair and I put on makeup and, I don't always do that. As it turns out, I usually look like a hot mess. And I've got like chicken poop in my hair and, I've got like my chicken poop boots that I leave at the front door. But I do all of this because we video record it, right? And so we can use the video feed, but truly we've only had one that we've thought, "Oh, maybe we should actually publish the whole video." And I watched it back and I can't help but to laugh my face off. I mean, it's just so funny to watch our facial expressions and I just love it. I
We
love
are
it so much.
funny. I mean, we've gotta get all of them on there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny. So, but how do you decide, like, do you put everything on every platform and then just go from there? How do you do that?
Yeah. I've dabbled in both strategies.
Mhm.
When I was really flailing again on TikTok and not getting very good leverage, I pivoted to Instagram,
Mhm.
and I doubled my following in 3 months, just changing my strategy. So the communities are different. Some people just post everything, and if it flops, who cares?
Yeah.
On TikTok, my videos have become much more well, they've always been more educationally patient-facing. Basically, I make a dry socket video every week, so those are the ones that make me money. Everyone just wants to know about dry socket. "Doctor, do I have dry socket?"
Yeah.
And so I'm not really super excited about posting those on Instagram because Instagram is more community based. Those are more like my followers. TikTok is more SEO. People are like Googling it. Young people use it instead of Google. So I'm hearing so wisdom teeth, blah, 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 dry socket, blah, blah. So they're finding my videos
Yeah.
by searching. So for that, that's really valuable. But on Instagram, I started leaning into the dentist community, the doctor community. And when I did that, that's when I really started doing better over there. So I went from 2,000 followers to almost 6,000 in just probably the last 6 months. And so I think it kinda just depends. Now, I know someone else who's big on social media, and they were saying, "Oh, I test it out on TikTok, and if it does well, I post on Instagram." And for me, that doesn't work because I have a video that has, like, 980,000 views on TikTok, and it got, like, 5,000 on Instagram. So they're different communities. There's different strategies, perhaps. So it kind of just
Mhm.
depends. I think repurposing content makes the most sense because that's your biggest chance of getting
Yeah.
reach. You're doing like YouTube shorts.
Mhm.
That could be really helpful and profitable, especially if you want to like start monetizing. I haven't had the time for that. So even Facebook, someone else I know makes a ton of money on Facebook, and I haven't really leaned into the Facebook community. But again, you think about who's on Facebook. It's like our parents, right?
Yeah.
The young people are not. Who's on TikTok? The younger people, although there is quite a big crowd of middle-aged and older people than you would think, and then
I've never
Instagram's much more.
downloaded it still.
I know everyone's scared. Hopefully with the new buyout, it'll feel safer to people, but TikTok's fun. The
I
things you're
know.
seeing on Instagram is weeks after TikTok.
More thing taking away my
It
attention
will suck
probably.
you in. It will suck you in, but they're
I
different
know.
strategies.
Yeah.
So some people will just repost everything. Some people
Yeah.
might curate, and I've done a mix of both.
Yeah, I like that. And then lastly, we've got to talk about monetization because this is what everybody talks about, right? And we talk about it's free marketing. And so the what do you call it?
Return on investment.
Yeah, I guess return on investment, it's not a sunk cost. Your time is not a sunk cost because if it's free marketing, then you're essentially not paying for marketing. And in that way, okay, I can understand that. But then you said you got a couple $100 from TikTok. And how do they do that? How do they monetize? How do they decide how much you get to make? And then how do they communicate with you like, "Oh, congratulations, we're gonna send you a check." And you're like,
Mhm,
"Do I give you my address? I don't
mhm.
understand. I'm
Oh,
definitely not gonna give you my bank account information."
yeah. Well, I'll say I am not an expert on monetization
Yeah.
because I am making minimal, if no money on it. So I will
It's
say
more than I'm
first
making,
off,
so, you know.
I mean, I'm a professional. I'm getting paid to make videos,
See?
which is really satisfying after years
Mhm.
of nothing.
Yeah.
But I will say there's a lot I have in my mind about this. One, don't go into this expecting to replace your income. Most of the people have done
Mhm.
that. They've been
Yeah.
making and grinding out content for years, and it's
Yeah.
just they've finally kind of figured out what's worked and the consistency has paid off. Or maybe they just really got lucky with the one video that caught them.
Yeah.
So there are so many people trying to sell you programs, and they act like as long
Right.
as you're consistency, you're gonna take off. And I will say, I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years, and I just barely started monetizing, and again, it's like pennies on the dollar for the time that I spend. So, it's not as easy as I make it sound.
Yeah.
If it were, we'd all be doing it and be quitting our jobs probably. So you have to find another reason to do it. For me, it's a hobby and I get satisfaction out of it. And I found other rewarding aspects. It's really opened up so many doors and channels to me. So I've become a speaker. I think
Mhm.
part of that was just because I was on here and getting more visibility and more confidence and being able to just be more comfortable on camera. I would we be doing a podcast if I wasn't comfortable speaking? That's something to
Yeah.
think about too. I wouldn't be doing this retreat that I'm hosting for the
Mhm.
second time because I wouldn't have
Yeah.
had a way to advertise that or to meet the people to invite them or to have that
Mhm.
platform. I wouldn't have that reach that I've had. So it's really been valuable to me. And then the biggest thing for me is I've made so many friends, people like you that I wouldn't
Right.
have met if I wasn't on this online space. That's the best part. I've found some people that I just love and really have that valuable friendship and that collaboration and networking that I wouldn't have had without it. So I think even if you aren't making dollars, there's other ways to profit
Yeah.
from social media.
Yeah.
And then as far as how to monetize, every platform's different. I am not sure. I think Instagram doesn't necessarily like pay you per views. There might be like special people that do, but I'm not getting any money from Instagram, but
Yeah.
brand collaborations and things like that. So I've had a few brands reach out to me where can you make a video and we'll pay you a little bit of money. And that could be a couple $100, it could be tens of thousands of dollars depending on your reach. I think
Yeah.
that's a really big place. TikTok, you can get paid for views now. There's a bunch of different criteria you have to meet. You have to have at least 10,000 followers, for example. It has to be a minute or longer video. You have to have a certain percentage of people watching it for a certain amount of time, finding it in certain
Mhm.
ways. And those are like
Yeah.
pennies. So if you're not consistently making content that has like hundreds of thousands of views, you're probably not making very much. A lot of people are making money like affiliate links or selling products on TikTok Shop and things like that. Someone I've heard makes a lot of money on Facebook. I haven't figured out how to monetize on Facebook, but says that's the best place that she makes cash. And then maybe you start selling a product or you
Yeah.
start selling a coaching class or making a lecture and things like that. Once you have that online expertise and that following, then you have more people interested in buying you, if that makes sense. There's a
Yeah.
lot of different ways that you can take it, and it kinda
Mhm.
just depends on your personality and your goals.
Yeah. And much like we don't like to introduce guests based on credentials and things, the algorithm also doesn't care about your
Right.
credentials. Is that right? So that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Like, because like you can push out content without having any expertise, and I think that's the scary thing too.
There's this one dentist that I keep running across, and she's kind of elderly dentist, and you wouldn't think she'd be doing great on TikTok, but she always has millions of views, and
Mhm.
she's very anti-dentist establishment, and so she's talking about, like, don't floss and all this stuff that goes against everything we
I
consider
guess
as good,
it's a good way to build your
and
patient base, like, if you tell them not
well,
to
when you have
floss.
people that are anxious about the dentist and distrusting of the dentist and don't wanna pay, then it's like, "And now buy my blah, blah, blah that's gonna fix all these problems," and
Mhm.
so it's like, she definitely has ulterior motives, she's definitely a grifter, but it's
Yeah.
frustrating to see she's probably making a ton of money off the videos themselves and that she's selling all these products, so that's
Mhm.
one reason, again, we need reliable sources,
Yeah.
putting real information out there, selling products that actually work if you wanna get into that.
Yeah, hint, brush your teeth and floss. Very
Yeah.
important.
So I will say one thing that I think is really important and interesting is, and you tell me what you think as someone who's not heavily involved in it, but I think wading into social media as a doctor is a little bit kind of, what's the
Taboo?
word? Taboo, exactly,
Mhm.
amongst medical professionals. I think that especially like older generations or maybe
Mhm.
academic people who are maybe not allowed to get on because of their hospital rules and things like that, I think a
Mhm.
lot of times it's seen as really embarrassing, or my own partner told me he didn't think I should be doing that and it's a liability. So, is that a perception that you have received as someone who's not really heavily into it?
Yeah, that's I think it's I have 2 comments on that. One is kind of what we've talked about with the conferences and stuff with the academicians versus everybody else. And it's like, well, we are the controllers of the information. And so we are the ones that speak and that put the information out. We are the purveyors of the knowledge. And so it's like, wait, why are you putting information out? We haven't published studies on that. That's anecdotal. That's not evidence based. That's da 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 da. Da. It's like this whole conundrum between the two universes of academia versus private practice or like outside of academia. And so I think that's where that sort of bias lies. The other thing that it reminded me of was when Natalie Crawford was talking about how she was at this banquet and she was receiving an award at this banquet, and she'd already written her acceptance speech. And the award was for something to do with social media and reaching the public through social media, something like that, right? And she was sitting down next to a gentleman, and he was like, "Really? We're giving awards for some social media somebody? Give me a break."
Right.
And then she's like, "So I rewrote my whole acceptance speech." And so then when they presented the award and called my name and I stood up and went and gave this acceptance speech, and then I came back and sat down, he was like, "I'm really sorry. I didn't realize how impactful what you're doing is." And that gave me like, I'm even got goosebumps now. It gave me so much hope and joy and peace just to
Right.
have that interaction have happened and that she was so poised and just not reactive, right?
Right.
But it was just like, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing and it's impactful and it's powerful and this is what I like to do and it's helpful. And so I
Right.
just thought that that was great. And so I think yes and yes. Like, yes, the sort of antiquated model of the academicians being the purveyors of all information and knowledge is there, but it's changing and evolving, and hopefully, just like in my chief year when I finally convinced one of our staff that it was okay to do virtual planning for orthodontic cases, but I was doing it both ways for all of my cases so that he could see,
Yeah.
but, like, hopefully in doing it, sort of what, like, Shannon Ritchie from Evlo calls gentle consistency, continuing to do that with gentle consistency allows it to be catered into, like, being acceptable to
For
that
sure.
generation and that group of people.
Well, that was one thing that I thought was surprising at the FemHealth, Digital Symposium was that they had a, and I'm sorry, I can't remember your name right now, I might have to look it up, but they had this CNN producer
Oh,
who's
yeah.
won 4 Emmys, so she's very
Mhm.
talented and successful, doing very well on TV, and she was talking about how when they are looking for doctors to do sound bites or interviews or articles and things like that, where are they going to find them? They're going on social media and they are propping them up as experts because those are the people that they know. They already have some comfort level with being in front of the public and being on camera and probably have already built some kind of community of trust and acceptance, et cetera, as an expert. And
Mhm.
so to me, that was really validating because I thought that goes exactly in the face of the people saying not to do this
Right.
because it's embarrassing and you're making us look dumb and silly making dancing videos and stuff like that. That maybe we're kind of feeling ashamed or embarrassed in our own community, but people outside looking in aren't seeing us that way. They're seeing us as trusted experts, et cetera, and I've seen that in my own patients. Like I said, I don't do a lot of direct marketing to patients through my Instagram or my TikTok, but I have had patients come in before where they've been like, "Oh my gosh, I found your videos,"
Yeah.
and it was so reassuring to me to know that you were gonna be my doctor. I was so glad that you got to be my doctor, and that's because think
Mhm.
of the distrust of dentistry or oral surgery or medicine as a whole these days,
Yeah.
and then there's this opportunity that we can build this relationship. There's
Right.
studies that show the parasocial relationship, that one-sided relationship with that person you see online, our brains can't really tell that we're not, like, good friends with those people, right? So,
Yeah.
when you come in, what a transformative experience. You come in and the first time you meet, you feel like we're already friends.
Yeah, and I think that Dr. Jessica Emery said that when we talked with her on the podcast. She said that was the thing. She was marketing in that way that she was pushing out videos and things, and so when the patients came in, she was pushing them out authentically. And when
Yeah.
the patients came in, she had already established that rapport with those patients, and so they already felt comfortable in that space. They chose her because they already felt comfortable in that space. And I think that that cuts out so much of the song and the dance that we initially
Yeah.
do to try and feel out if this is the right place for you.
You've already done the rapport building passively.
Right. And as long as you're doing it authentically, because if the patient shows up and you're different.
If they don't recognize you, then maybe that kinda takes you back a step, but it's
Yeah.
also showing, like, Dr. Sheffield is showing up, and she sounds like she knows what she's talking about, so I'm safe in her hands. So, I
Yeah.
think that that's really powerful, and that if you're feeling a little nervous or embarrassed to show up, who cares what the old guys at university say or,
Yeah.
your partner or whatever. I will say, my part of again, the reason I got into social media is because when I first came to Quincy, it was like, "I need some more patients, and what kind of marketing can we do?" And they're like, "Well, we used to do, like, billboards, but honestly, social media is it." And the funny thing is they're like, "Look at our
Mhm.
dermatologist. She does it." And so I'm like, "Oh, she does it, so I'll do it." And so I started posting. And the funny thing is now she's like, "Give me ideas for posting." I'm like, "Well, you're the
Yeah.
guru. They told me you
Yeah.
were," you know?
Yeah.
But
He's the
even so
OG.
they told me to get into it, and so I followed their advice, and then someone within the organization reported me to
Mm.
HR saying that we were laughing too much making videos, and that patients were in the waiting room, and that they're worried about HIPAA and all of that, and that was very frustrating to me because they
This
told me.
reminds me of this reminds me of the thing that we had hanging up in my residency office, and then subsequently in my first, like, clinic in the Navy, and it says, "The beatings will continue until morale improves." You're like, "Wait, you're gonna come to a dentist office where we're promoting, like, healthy, happy smiles, and
I
but no
know,
laughing, no
I know.
smiling, not from you, not from you,
And I'm pretty sure
no."
the inside job because, like, how do they know we're laughing or the people in
Right.
the waiting room? And just because people
Yeah.
are in the waiting room don't mean that they're my patients, like, I have a partner too, or,
Yeah.
but
And
we
and
used to do
imagine
that.
patients being like, "I only want places where there's screaming patients and yelling at each other.
Right.
Laughing, unacceptable."
Like, my interview question, one of them was like, "Are you willing to make TikTok videos?" And when
Oh, how
patients wouldn't
funny.
show up, we would make videos, and part of that's,
Yeah.
like, team building, it's kinda fun,
Yeah.
so it's kinda funny and frustrating to me that I got reported, and they were doing it under the guise of, like, protecting patients, but I will say I do have a form that every patient, if I make a video of them, signs
Yeah.
just to keep me safe once a video release, and I think that's really important. Obviously, HIPAA's super important.
Yeah. So all in all, I think it's appropriate. I think it's the wave of the future. I think the hard part, as with everything else in this landscape, is trying to figure out who's actually giving good, solid advice, like medical stuff, who's kind of the grifters. But I think that that's the landscape, right? It's the same thing when patients are like, "Well, I went to my dentist and they said that they can do this big sinus lift and all on four and all these things. And I'm like, I mean, maybe they can, but
Yeah.
I know that they probably didn't do 4 to 6 years of extra training to manage that and the complications that can possibly happen with that. And at the end of the day, it's your choice. But I don't think that the education is there. People aren't able to make an informed decision because they don't know the difference. And so
Yeah.
that's the scary part of all of this to me, I think, is that now
Mhm.
it's just like, when the internet came out, they're like, yeah, you can find anything you want to on the internet. And it's the same thing with social media. You can look at it, and that's why every single person comes in thinking they have a dry socket. And you're like, you don't have a dry socket. But they do, because
Pineapple
when you
juice.
first thing, you had wisdom teeth out and I have pain, they're like, probably a dry socket. Just like yesterday, my heart hurt strangely. And I was like, type in apical heart pain. It's like, you're probably having a heart attack. I'm like, I'm not having a heart attack. It's just indigestion. But it's just like, it's the same thing. But too much information isn't always better. And especially when you don't know where it's coming from. And so I think that's going to be the interesting part to
Yeah,
me.
definitely.
I don't know.
Well, it's a mixed bag for sure. There's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad mixed in, and that's something that I'm battling with every day. So it's just, how am I using my time, and is it worth my time to be doing this? And for now, for me, it is, but may not be for you. It may not be not for everyone, but I think there's a lot of interest, and take that leap. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I think showing your authentic self adds a lot to the conversation.
Sold. All right. Maybe here my goal is for the next couple of weeks, I will make one video a week,
I
maybe.
think that's great. I think if you wanna get started, like, some people say you have to post, like, 7 times a day. I think that kinda stuff is ridiculous unless you're, like, really trying to quit your job and become an influencer full
I can't
time.
even eat 7 times a day. How am I supposed to do that?
I know,
Come
right?
on.
So, I think this is where consistency is really important. Once a week is a good place to start. But we know that we can expect to see you. We start seeing more from you. We're used to seeing you. You're building that credibility. Or maybe it's once every 3 days, or maybe once a day. Just kinda choose what your goal is and start small, and then don't overthink it. Don't spend 6 hours editing a video.
Yeah.
That video is one that's not gonna do well. The one that you,
Mhm.
like, accidentally posted, that you didn't realize posted, is the one that's gonna go viral probably, so don't
That's
overthink
totally
it.
what I would do. Oh god,
Yeah,
that's
I
so
know.
anyway,
Alright.
all right. Well, I like it. Well, if you're a doctor thinking about starting on social media, as Marin would say, what's stopping you? The only way to change things is to change things. So, let us hear from you. We'd love to. And, give us some ideas, especially me, because girl has a hard time with content, so,
We need more
hey.
chicken and avocado content.
That's right. The medicine woman with her yarrow and milk thistle. Actually, I think
That's
the guys
right.
are out weed whacking right now, so they probably cut down all my yarrow and milk thistle. Glad I took pictures of it. Yep. All right. Thanks, Aaron.
Okay. Thank you. Talk to you later.
All right.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Resting Stitch Face. If today's conversation spoke to you, imagine what it would feel like to connect in person. That's exactly why we created The Doctor Is All In, a retreat just for women in oral surgery. Learn more and grab your spot at thedoctorisallin.org. We'll see you next time.